And the title today, because I don't have outline, is Rest from War and Israel Receives Their Allotted Land. And so we know that last week we went through and we talked about, and I had Josephine's answer too to her question, but she's not here. So anyway, I'll give it to you guys later. But we see last week we were going through 12, and we talked about the 31 kings that were conquered, and the land that was given, the kings that were conquered, and then we talked about the question arose, how long did it take for them to go through and remove the inhabitants from the land? And so I had that written down in one of my points later on, but I just don't want to forget it. So we're going to go through 13, and we're going to try to cover 14, because 12 talks about the kings that were conquered, and we talked about the Melachim, or him being the king of kings, and what it represented, what the train of the robe represented, and when they conquered the kings, what they did with the trains of the robe to show their authority and also their victories. And so we know that our Elohim is Elohim of all Els, and he's the king of all kings. And so we talked about that. And then we also discussed the territories, who was there, those things. So we know that Joshua is a book of really war, going through conquering. And when we think about coming out of Christianity and walking out of different aspects of our faith, and where we've gotten the fundamentals of this walk that have brought us to here, we always think about meek and turning the other cheek, but we see also to procure or to obtain our inheritance, we have to fight. And there was a lot of fighting that took place, and we do too. We are in a spiritual, we're in the physical world, but we operate in the physical. We see these things, but we don't see what's operating outside of the realm that are against us. We have an enemy, and he's not just our enemy, he's the enemy of the Most High, and he takes out his wrath on us. And so it is very important that we remain circumspect, and we also observe this word and learn how to fight, and how to also be on guard from the enemy. Because as we walk out of, a lot of us have walked out of different faiths, and some of us are just awakening period, just never wanted to go to church and didn't, because they just, I hate it because I had to get up on Sunday. I never, just didn't. And some of us coming out, and it's hard a lot of times, because going in, just like with Yahushua, they were coming out of Mizraim, they were coming out of bondage, and they were coming out from under this rule where there was a lot of different, pagan things happening. There were multiple gods. There were different events and occasions. Like now we have Thanksgiving and Christmas and all this stuff coming up, and you have to fight against those things. And so he told him, he said, when I bring you to the land that I'm going to give you, remember, don't do what they did in the land. Don't do like the people that have been expelled from the land. And so this is a continual reminder and remembrance, but this is also, like I said, this is a book of war. It shows you that you have to fight. You have to be bold. You have to set strong boundaries, and you have to stand your ground. People get mad at you. You call crazy, and you want some other stuff. Oh, you just keep changing. But remember that the evidence of intelligence and the evidence change, growth is necessary, but you have to change to grow. If you don't change, then you're really not growing. You just kind of staying the same. It's stagnant. And everybody know about the Dead Sea. What does anything live in it? Nothing. There's no life there. So it's just stagnant and dormant, and we don't want to become that either. So in 13, I'm just gonna get started, and it's a lot to read. So maybe somebody can help me out today. I don't have to do all the reading. Y'all can stumble over some of these words. Somebody go from 13:1 to 8. And then somebody else take 9 to 15.
I'll do 9 to 15.
Okay, and then somebody else gets 17 to 23. And then somebody else get 24 to 30. And then I'll finish.
Okay, I can do 1 through 8.
Yes, please.
Okay. So Joshua 13, 1. Now Joshua was old and stricken in years, and Yahosha said unto him, Thou art old and stricken in years, and there remaineth yet very much land to be possessed. This is the land that yet remaineth, all the borders of the Philistines and all Geshuri, from Shihor, which is before Egypt, even unto the borders of Ekron, northward, which is counted to the Canaanites. Five lords of Palestine, the
Gazite. Yes.
And the Ashdodhites, the Eshkalonites, and the Hittites, and the Ekronites, also the Abites. From the south, all the land of Canaanites, and Merah, that is beside the Sidonians, unto Apec, to the border of the Amorite, and the land of the Geblites, and all Lebanon, towards the sun rising from Baal-Gad under Mount Hermon, unto the entering, and to Hamath. All the inhabitants of the hill country, from Lebanon unto Mizrapotamia, and all the Sadeans, them will I drive out from before the children of Israel. Only divide thou it by lot unto the Israelites, for an inheritance as I have commanded thee. Now therefore divide this land for an inheritance unto the 9 tribes, and the half tribe of Manasseh.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to stop there and just talk about what Yah told Yahshua. So he told Yahshua that you are old and stricken in years, or you're old and advanced in your years. And so my first point was Yahshua allowed to retire. So when you've worked and you've been employed, then there isn't a allotted time or a time when you are allowed to retire. And from work though, when you've really worked, and we know that Yahushua's employment was, he was a commander, right? He was the commander in the army. He wasn't lollygagging around. He was putting in some work. He was going in, yes, strategizing about Yah's direction, of course. He was on his job. He was a leader, and so they were being told to do what they saw their leader do, which was Moshe. He was commanded after Moshe, so he went in and finished the work. There was work to still be completed. So I looked up the word old and to see what Yah was saying to him. And so in my Strong's, excuse me, I seen the word old, it was zaken. And we know that 70 years is a usual lifespan after the flood. Men didn't live to 500 and 900. So your years were given, allotted to you. Your normal lifespan was 70. So, and to be separated from society, a senior usually was 60. And so you'll find that the scripture for that is in Leviticus 27:18, because we know the Levites were allowed to retire at 50. So you see that in Numbers 4, 3, 23, 30. And after they retired, though, you weren't retired to sit around and twiddle your thumbs. You retired, and then you became a judge. You sat at the gates. We've seen that in Proverbs 31:23, when it said that her husband sits at the gate and he judges. He didn't just go sit at the gate like willy-nilly, like I'm not doing that while my wife is out here doing all this stuff, working with her hands and feeding the servant. No, he was sitting at the gate because to be able to retire, you had work and you had put in work. So he had put in work and he was able to rest from war because he was obedient. It said that in the last few chapters, and it said that the time of Yahosha, after they conquered, that the land rested from war because he did according to what he had been called to do. Because if you leave some enemies lingering around, then what's going to happen? Somebody going to rise by that. You got to fight. I mean, everybody don't forget. They don't. The kids don't forget. There, war. There is. We think we got to think about that. So, and we see also that you can't. A note to myself I said, you can't be a leader if you never learn to follow, especially instructions from Yahosha. So that is just evidence that he was a good follower because he was allowed to lead and lead as long as he did. And the people respected his leadership and they followed. And so you didn't see a whole lot of bucking up and confusion. But I guess after 40 years, you watch everybody die from giving Moses hate, then you probably would get your act right. Also, we see that in verse 6, it said that Yah told him, I will do, this is an inheritance for you, and I will drive out the inhabitants of the land. So Yah did the driving out, and Yahosha knew that his, the work that was being done was from him submitting and following. It wasn't in his might. He was the captain, but he knew who the real captain and the host of of the army was. He knew who it was, and that you see that in Yahosha 5:14 when they were going into Jericho. And I just thought this was awesome. And y'all just filled me this morning with so much stuff. I know I won't be able to get it all out, but it was just this lesson. I was in tears just doing it, and I was like, wow. So he said when Joshua came to Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes, and behold, a man was standing opposite of him, and Joshua went to him and said, are you for us or our adversaries? But you can see Joshua's heart. He was bold. There was no fear in him. There wasn't. Like, I see a man walk up. So what's up? Like, you for us or you? Who we go? That's basically what I'm needing right now. Am I going to have to fight, or are you with us? So, he said, no. Rather, I indeed come now as a captain of the host of Yahuwah. And Yahosha fell on his face on the earth and bowed down and said to him, What has my Elohim to say to his servant? And the captain of Yahuwah's host said to Yahosha, remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you're standing is holy. And Yahosha did. So you just see him obedient in all fashions, but his heart, he was bold and he was determined to do what it was Yah had given him to do. He wasn't backing down. So he really, like, when you just look at his resume, he worked. He was working, and he had a heart. And you get to see in this chapter, as the land is being divided and they're receiving their inheritance, you see him and Caleb. They had a heart for the work of the Most High, and they loved the servant Moshe, because they were willing to go in and finish the work that he didn't get to finish. And we talked about that last week too. That could, like, the most disheartening part of walking in this walk is you can be victorious, and you can come out of Christianity, you can follow the law, statute, and you can still fail to obtain your inheritance, or you can slip up. And so we got to stay focused. We have to remain accountable one to another. We have to learn how to accept correction in love. We have to learn how to follow, because following means at some point you're going to end up leading. At some point, if you follow correctly, that's what our children do. They follow our lead. And I used to tell mine all the time. I said, young, I raised you guys, and some of the things I did, I was just figuring it out as a y'all was like some guinea pigs. So until
There's no book.
And then until you get in the word and then you see order, how the order of the household is supposed to go, how things are supposed to go. I had to do some apologizing, but I told them when they would get mad, I was like, look, whatever you think I'm doing that's wrong, don't you just don't do it. Do what's right, what works, you do what works, and what don't. But now that you have the word, you've seen this walk being laid out, and so they got in line. They saw the mistake that Moshe made, and the other people didn't even get to recover from their mistakes. They just walked and died out in the wilderness. Yeah. And then, Caleb and Joshua and the kids under that watched were able to go in. So you see the rest from that. You also see that Yahshua trusted in the personal presence and the powerful provisions of Yah. He did, because after the angel of the host of the army did say what he said, he bowed and worshiped. Okay, I trust that this is what Yah wants. And so he did that. He didn't lose sight. And then he did he understood too, again, that Yah was the one that drove out the enemies. And we'll see that in 2 Kings 6. Because this one is good too. I'm telling you, I was like, whoa. And it just shows us that we can rest knowing that he is the commander of the army. If he tells us to do something, he's really already gone before you. Because Joshua went to go spy out Jericho to look at the wall and see what was going on again. And he was already there. So if he tells us to do something, he's already there. You just have to do the work. It's like work out your salvation. I got a sandwich. You hungry? You ain't coming to get it? I'm not going to come get it. That thing. So it says, this chapter 6, it was the plot of the Arameans plot to capture. They wanted to capture Elijah because, he was doing some wonderful work. He was anointed. He was something else too. And so we started 8. Now the king of Aram was warring against Israel, and he counseled with the servants, saying, in such and such a place shall be my camp. And then the man of Yahuwah sent word to the king of Israel, saying, beware that you do not pass this place, for the Arameans are coming down there. And the king of Israel sent to the place about which the man of Yahuwah had told him. Thus he warned him, so that he guarded himself there more than once or twice. Now the heart of the king Aram was enraged over the things, and he called his servant and said to them, will you tell me which of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, no, no, Lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet, who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. So he's like, okay, who was for me? Because something being told, what's going on? Yes. So he said, go and see where he is, that I may send and take him. And it was told to him, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. And he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. Now when the attendant of the man of Yahuwah had risen early and gone out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was circling the city. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then Elisha prayed and said, O Yahuwah, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahuwah opened the servant's eyes, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And then they came down to him. Elisha prayed to Yahuwah and said, strike this people with blindness, I pray. So he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. Then Elisha said to them, this is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. And he brought them to Samaria. And it came about when they came to Samaria that Elisha said, O Yahuwah, open the eyes of these men that they may see. So Yahuwah opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. Then the king of Israel, when he saw them, said to Elisha, my father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? And he answered, you shall not kill them. Would you kill those you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink. So he prepared a great feast for them, and when they had eaten, drank, and sent them on their way and went to the master. And the marauding brands of Arameans did not come again into the land of Israel. But again, you see that picture. Yah had already encompassed and protected. So he did the driving out of the enemy. He does all of that, but it's again activated by obedience. It's activated by trusting him. It's activated by walking and submitting to him. Okay, we stopped at 8 or 9?
I think we stopped at 7.
7, okay, somebody do 8 through 8.
With them, the other half tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Moshe had given them beyond the Yarden eastward, as Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, had given them from Aroer, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain or valley, and all the plains of Medeba, as far as Dibon, and all the cities of Sion, sovereign of the Amorites who reigned in Heshbon, as far as the border of the children of Ammon, and Gilead, and the border of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan, as far as Salcah. All the reign of Og and Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the Rephaites, for Moshe had smitten and disposed them. However, the children of Israel did not drive out the Geshurites nor the Maacathites. So the Geshurites and the Maacathites dwell in the midst of Israel to this day. Only to the tribe of Levi he gave no inheritance. The offering made by fire to Yahuwah Elohim of Israel were their inheritance, as he said to them.
Okay, then somebody go ahead and read 15. And was it 15? Did I say 15 to 24 or 15 to? Go ahead.
And Moshe had given to the tribe of the children of Reuben an inheritance according to their families. Their territory was from Eror, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, and the city that is in the midst of the ravine, and all the plain by Medeba. Heshbon and all its cities that are in the plain, Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal, Meon, Jehaza, Kedemoth, Mepha, Kirjathaim, Simba, Zereth, Shahar on the mountain of the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshimoth. All the cities of the plain and all the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, whom Moshe had struck with the princes of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, who were princes from Sihon, dwelling in the country. The children of Israel also killed with the sword Balaam, the son of Beor, the soothsayer, among those who were killed by them. And the border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben according to their families, the cities, and their villages.
Okay, I'll finish. And then Moshe also gave an inheritance to the tribe of Gad, to the sons of Gad according to their families, and their territory was Jazer and the cities of Gilead, and half of the land of the sons of Ammon, and as far as Aurora, which was before Rabbah, and from Heshbon as far as Ramoth Mizpah and Betonim, and from Mahanaim as far as the border of Debir, and in the valley of Beth Haram and Beth Nimrah and Succoth and Japhon, the rest, and the kingdom of Sihon, king of Heshbon, and the Jordan as the border as far as the lower end of the sea of Chinnereth, beyond the Jordan of the east. This is the inheritance of the sons of Gad according to their families, the cities and their villages. Moshe also gave an inheritance to the half-tribe of Manasseh, and it was for the half-tribe of the sons of Manasseh according to their families. And their territory was from Mahanaim all Bashan, all the kingdoms of Og, king of Bashan, and the towns of Jair, which are in the Bashan, 60 cities. Also half of Gilead, and Ashtaroth, and Edrei. The cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan were for the sons of Machir, the sons of Manasseh, for half of the sons of Machir according to their families. These are the territories which Moshe appointed for their inheritance in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan at Jericho to the east. But to the tribe of Levi, Moshe did not give an inheritance. And Yahuwah Elohim of Israel is the inheritance he had promised them. And you see that 2-3 times. And so there's inference on that. Lots of inference on the Levites. The Levites were, Yah is their inheritance forever. And he didn't want them to forget that. And so everybody else is, you might think about it, and we think about it in allotment and land and like, oh, well, why don't they get anything? But who would much rather, I would rather have Yah as my inheritance than a piece of land. Because that means he's mine wherever he sends me. The Levites go, they minister. So wherever you go, you will be taken care of. A Levite is, wherever he goes, wherever Yah sends him, he's taken care of. And we see that in Deuteronomy 18, 1 and 2. And then we also take a look at the word, what's that word? The tribe of Levi didn't get an inheritance. He dispossessed them out of the land, and he gave Reuben the tribes. And we know that the half tribes, before they crossed over the Jordan, they were to this day because they had a lot of livestock, and it was a grassy area for them to graze. They asked to have that portion before they went over, but they only were given that portion after they promised. Remember, do anybody remember the covenant or the promise that they made with Moshe, that they would still come and help fight going into the promised land? And so they agreed to do that. And we've seen that in I think it was Numbers 32, 33 through 37. And then we look at Lamentations 3. There we go. Lamentations 3. 3:24. Yeah. He said, I'm going to start at 22. He said, Yahuwah's loving kindness indeed never ceases, for his compassion never fails. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Yahuwah is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I hope in him. And he says, Yahuwah is good to those who wait for him. To the person that seeks him, it is good that he waits. And so he's their salvation. He's their portion. And if you wait on him, you won't be disappointed. We see that, I gave you those scriptures. The Camp Mahanaim, it was, when you look back at it, I always remember to tell you guys about the names and the places, and remember those places and look up the names. The first instance of Mahanaim, we see Jacob in Genesis 32:2, and he was leaving Laban's house. Does anybody remember that he was fleeing from Laban? He had made Laban rich. He had worked the years for Leah and Rachel, and took what was his, and he left, and then Laban still was coming after him. And so as he was getting ready to cross over, you see another picture of Yah making provisions, because remember he had did something when he left home. His brother gave him his birthright, but he tricked him too. So he desired the spiritual things. He just always was going about another kind of way to get them, and then he not relying in Yahuwah to do it. But we know that Esau despised his right. He gave it away for a bowl of lentils, so it wasn't nothing to him. He wasn't thinking about it. And when you look at this picture, you always see the firstborn always giving up their birthright or losing it, because Reuben lost his birthright as well, and that's why Judah was given the birthright and given the spiritual inheritance, because there are two. The first child gets a double portion of inheritance, the firstborn child, and you get the spiritual and the physical. But a lot of times they forfeited the spiritual before the physical, and that's another thing we have to remember, that we don't love the things. We love people, and the things are there to serve us and for us to use and to give away. To a godly person or a person in the walk now, you would say they leave an inheritance for their children, and you don't get rid of the land. Land is also evidence of inheritance. So having land and having something to give your children, because land produces something, right? You got shelter, you have food, it grows food, and somewhere for your family to always come back to remember who they are. It's a marker. So Mahanaim was a place where he was leaving, and he saw the two camps. And if anybody remembers, he was greeted again with the angels. He seen the angel of Yahuwah come, because he was fearing, because he's like, shoot, I gotta go back over here and cross Esau. Man, he gonna kill me. He was like, okay. But after he met the angels of Yahuwah, he met them. Then he did something. He did what I call is the shalem and the shalom. You can't have shalom without shalem. He paid restitution, and he apologized to his brother, and he sent forth. But then, even sending forth, he sent He sent the woman he didn't love and the 10 kids, and kept Rachel and the other two back. He was meant to do good. I was like, he had to get the hip. He had to make it work. Y'all had to paralyze. Like, I got to make you really. I got to put a limp in your little step, because you do okay, then you do this. But he, when you think about it now, it's like, boy, you gonna send the kids of the parent, but this is your whole inheritance. So we see that, and then he went ahead and he crossed, him and his brother reconciled, and they went their ways. And Esau was like, hey, y'all's blessed me too. He had monetary things, of course, but he didn't get the spiritual. And we see that too when you go into the land. You see this, and you see Edom, and you see them trying to fight because they didn't care about the spiritual things, clearly, because they didn't care about the work of Yahuwah, because they was trying to stop it. That's what the war is. You come in to fight me, you're stopping the work of Yahuwah. So that brings us to 14. And when you look at 14, you see them. Now these are the territories which the sons of Israel inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest and Yahushua the son of Nun and the heads of the household of the tribes of the sons of Israel appointed to them for an inheritance. So you see now the judges. Now they're judging. They done did their fighting and conquering, and now they allotted the land. Now they're in a place where they're giving out allotted portions. Of course, you give according to the size of the tribes. And so by the lot of their inheritance, as Yahuwah commanded through Moshe for the 9 tribes. And it kind of starts to sound redundant, but he wants us to remember. If he keeps saying something over, he wants you to remember. And when he tells you about these places, he wants you to know where these places are, because even now in modern day on the map, you can go back and you can see where these places are. If you keep searching the name, you'll find it. They can't hide too much of nothing. This book is a treasure. And the clues, they couldn't get rid of everything, you just can't get rid of clues. And so Moses had given the inheritance to the 2 tribes, and he did not give an inheritance to the Levites again. He wants you to remember the Levites depend on who? Yeah. And so the sons of Joseph were the 2 tribes of Manasseh. You see how important heritage and roots are? These 2 belong to Joseph. Who's Joseph's son? Who's Joseph's father? Jacob. Joseph acted as a Yahshua as well. He saved his people. He was a type of, as you would say, Mashiach, because he saved his people from famine. So what they thought they did for evil, Yah turned it into good. And so he saved his people. And just like with Moshe, his obedience, his mother's obedience, saved his people, got them out of bondage. So you see a picture of provision here. And so 5, thus the sons of Israel did just as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe and divided the land. Then the sons of Judah drew near to Yahshua in Gilgad, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kizanite said to him, You know the word which Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, the man of Elohim, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt with fear, but I followed Yah, my Elohim, fully. So Moshe swore on that day, saying, surely the land on which your foot has trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever, because you have followed Yahuwah, your Elohim, fully. And now behold, Yahuwah has let me live, just as he spoke these 45 years from the time that Yahuwah spoke this word to Moshe. When Israel walked in the wilderness, and behold, I am 85 years old now. I am still as strong today as I was in the day Moshe sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now for war and for going out and coming in. Now then, give me this hill country which Yahuwah spoke on the day, for you heard on that day that Anakim were there, with great fortified cities. Perhaps Yahuwah will be with me, and I shall drive them out as Yahuwah had spoken. So Yahshua blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, for an inheritance. Therefore Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kizanite, until this day, because he followed Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, fully. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kiriath Arba, for Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. Then the land had rest from war. So we see Caleb, and it makes you question, who was Caleb? That's what the question arose to me. So we see Caleb was a Kenizzite. And we see as far back as Genesis 15:9, the Kenizzites made a covenant with Abram when he was told to leave his father's land and follow. And in Exodus 3:8, it tells you about who the Kenizzites were too. And then Numbers 32:12 talks about the Kenizzites. But the Kenizzites were an Arab race, and they were what you would call the wild branch. And you can kind of, I think it was Ishmael, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, where the Ishmaelites, Ishmael was a child of Abram, but he went with his mother. Yah blessed him, gave him his inheritance, as you would. So you'll see pictures of, you'll see some other mentions of Kenites in 1 Samuel 15:6, Judges 4:11, Judges 1:16, Numbers 24:21. But they say they were friendly towards the Israelites. And you remember coming up out of Mizraim, this is just to get rid of a lot of strife and to see a picture, because people think that only in the New Testament or in the Brit Kadashah was the Gentiles or the wild branch grafted in. But he shows a picture of the wild branch being grafted in too, as they obeyed and believed, because when they were leaving out of Mizraim, Exodus 12:38 said they came out a mixed multitude. So they saw the mighty hand of Elohim, and they united. So we can get rid of that stuff like, oh, this person, this color, this person ain't our brother, this person ain't our brother, because Yahosha said, my brother is him who does the will of my Father. So I don't care who you are. If you do the will of my Father, we brothers and sisters. It's when you don't, then we're adversaries. It's simple. It ain't no gray area. Really simple, right? And you'll see that in Matthew 12:50 and Mark 3:35. So I told you who Caleb was. I also gave you some insight on who the Kenizzites or the Kenites were, and you can go and research that, and if you find more, let me know. And so I talked about who our brother was. Who is my brother? So my brother is one who does the will of the Father. And then Caleb's request was just where I said just blew me away. Caleb's request was like awesome. His request was made, and when he went and made his request, he obeyed Yah as a servant. He obeyed Yah after he made his request, after he did all that he knew he was supposed to do. You can't really make a request to Elohim and you ain't did what you're supposed to do. That's why I say you have not, you have not, because you ask not. But then when you do ask, you ask amiss. You ain't doing nothing I said do. And then you gonna ask me for something? You might need to ask for a whooping. Like, that's what you need, right? Maybe you'll get it right. And so his request was made, and he recalled what was said to him. He spoke that back. But his heart, when you talk about the heart, the labab in this instance, Hebrews 38:24, it was courage in his heart. And he knew that his promise, or that his inheritance was contingent upon him following Yah fully. And so you see where protecting our inheritance is so important. And so I listen to ladies all the time. We talk about people not being in the walk, people wanting to do the holidays or saying we crazy because we don't do this. But I am guarding my inheritance. You don't know yet. I know. You can be mad at me. You can call me crazy. But Psalms 128, and this is where we're going to end at. Protecting our inheritance. He protected his inheritance, and he knew once he did that he knew that in doing that he was preserving something for his children's children. Psalms 128. I'm going to read the whole one. He said, "How blessed is everyone who fears Yahuwah, who walks in his ways. When you shall eat of the fruit of your hands." That blew me away. When you shall eat of the fruit of your hands, you will be happy, and it will be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine within your house, your children like olive plants around your table. Behold, for this shall be the man for the man be blessed, who fears Yahuwah. Yahuwah blesses you from Zion, and you may see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Indeed, may you see your children's children. Peace be upon you. You'll see your children's children, so you will see your inheritance if you are obedient, and then you'll see your children reap the benefits of your inheritance if you just stand on your post. If you just, we gotta fight. Caleb was allowed to eat the fruits of his labor. That's what the inheritance was for. You guys fought, you obeyed, you were able to rest, eat from the land. Before they went in, before they went into the land to go in to conquer, they had to participate in Passover. They had to consecrate themselves. So there was order before they could even go in. And then the evidence of them being obedient and going into the land was they were able to eat the fruits of that land. And then they went in and took the land. So that is us too. Be strong, mighty, bold, and the seat of your emotions know that Yah goes before you to fight for you. When he's put something in your heart, when he's told you to do it, he's already done it. And again, just in going in the beginning of Joshua 1 said the same thing. Now be courageous. And then Ephesians 6:10 tells us too, now be courageous in the power of his might. So be courageous when you're told what to do. Be courageous in this walk. Be courageous with your family with these seasons coming up. Stand on your ground. You don't have to argue. I'll see y'all on Friday. I'll see y'all on Friday. I won't, I don't have to. You don't have to. You just know that when we participate in being deliverant, we are, there's an abundant blessing for participating. There really is. You get to see the past, what's behind you, and what you're going into. Because you know that he's already done it, and he's going to do it again. And we just get to participate and walking in it. So thank you, ladies.
Hold on.
Offering for the women's class, and I don't know if we counted how many we had.